Well, Canadians are getting more pessimistic about home prices. In the latest Bloomberg Nanos Consumer Confidence Survey, 14% of the respondents said they expect home prices in their neighborhood to decrease over the next 6 months. That's about twice as many as had that view a month ago. Let's get some more perspective now from Nik Nanos, who is the chief researcher and founder of Nanos Research. Thanks very much for being with us, Nik. When you go about asking Canadians about their views on the housing market, give us a sense of what comes back.
Well, the interesting thing is that for the last decade, John, real estate has been the one outlier that Canadians have held onto in terms of increasing value. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride over the last number of months. In the latest Bloomberg Nanos tracking that we do every week, still 54% of Canadians believe that the value of real estate in their neighborhood will go up, compared to the 14% that will go down. But what we're seeing right now is some noticeable negative pressure where Canadians are not as exuberant about the rising value of real estate compared to what we've seen over the last while.
Now, some might say there was all this talk about home prices being too high and frustrating to those who were trying to get into the market. And obviously, we saw that tackled at just about every level of government. And maybe ultimately it took this new rate reality to change that sentiment. But when I hear those comments that you're making, it seems like there is a concern more than a feeling of relief about prices cooling off a little bit right now.
Yeah, well, the thing is I think in the past when the market was hotter, there was a bit of a herding effect where people were rushing into the market in order to try to get in before interest rates would go up or before the prices would be even more unattainable than they are today. But, the interesting thing is that the overall economic mood is starting to sour, John, and I think that's one of the key takeaways. Like right now in the index, which is a diffusion index, a score out of 100, it's only at 53 points out of 100. 50 is basically neutral. But to put this into context, a year ago, about this week, the score on the Bloomberg Nanos Index was about 70 points, which was very strong and very positive. So there's been almost a 20-point drop in confidence where we're shifting away from being positive about consumer confidence to going into neutral. But it's that trajectory that we should be worried about, because once we start going into neutral territory, if that trend continues, then we're going to go into negative territory, which we haven't seen in quite a while.
So before I wrap things up, you've got higher interest rates on the minds of stock market investors. They're very concerned, particularly with things like technology stocks. There was another poll today indicating that after the rate hikes we've seen in Canada already this year, and we got another move around the corner, that some Canadians would like to see the bank take a breather before they continue and see whether or not those moves can actually fight inflation. What sense do you have on how far the Bank of Canada can go if you have these growing concerns about the rapid rise in rates and equally this concern about what's happening in areas that are affected by it, like home prices?
Okay, well, you know what, John? Good monetary policy does not make for good politics all the time. And I think for a lot of Canadians, they're feeling the squeeze of being concerned about rising inflation and the rising cost of goods and rising interest rates. But it's not going to make Canadians feel very, very good if the Bank of Canada embarks on a policy which might put even more fiscal pressure on many Canadians and their ability to pay bills and just stay above water.
All right. Well, obviously, it's something we'll continue to track closely. Nik, thanks for breaking down the latest data with us. Nik Nanos, Chief Data Scientist and the founder of Nanos Research.